Good afternoon, folks. Robert Chappell here, Executive Editor of Madison365, with your daily update for today, which is Monday, May 16th. And that means that it is Metcalf's Monday. Metcalf's, oops, sorry. There we go. Metcalf's is a fourth generation family owned and operated supermarket with locations in Madison at Hilldale Mall and behind the Westtown Mall, and in Wauwatosa at 68th and State. Metcalf's works to support local farmers and producers and has over 3,500 local products on their shelves. And you can order anytime for pickup or delivery at shopmetcalfs.com, which is not a bad idea to do considering the COVID statistics as we're seeing them today. What we're looking at today is our 7-day average of new cases. We're back to like early October, September of last year. Like we're back to like early stage Delta numbers. 2,193 new confirmed COVID-19 cases per day in the past 7 days. That includes 1,168 new cases just today. Mondays are usually the lowest day, right? Because there's not as much testing happening over the weekends. So that doesn't bode real well to be almost 1,200 on a Monday. Not great. Also not great, 13.9% positive test rate. That's of all the tests in the past 7 days, 13 or basically 14% have been positive. That's actually ahead of where we were at the beginning of Omicron. Like early December last year, we were at 12.5%, 13%. Actually, by late December last year, sorry. On December 22nd of last year, right? Just as Omicron was really starting to ramp up, we were at 13.6%. So 13.9% is worse than that. Now, that has something to do with less testing happening, more at-home testing happening, right? Lower number of negative tests with the same number of positive tests will push that positive test rate up. I'm pointing at my screen, like you can't see that, but I'm pointing at my screen. We'll push that positive test rate up. So more people testing negative at home, and then that negative result is good for that person or that household, but it doesn't go into any of the state data, right? So you'll end up with a slightly inflated positive test rate. Doesn't mean it's good, right? It doesn't excuse it. It doesn't be like, oh, don't worry about the positive test rate. It's just because of at-home tests. No, we still want that positive test rate to be below 3%, which it was in March, and is now at 13.9. Hospitalizations also continue to rise. We are almost back to 400 people hospitalized, which last fall is kind of where I started to feel like, okay, this is getting bad, right? Now, we're not at the point of overwhelming the hospital systems at this moment, right? During Omicron, we were back up to 2,000 people in hospital at any given moment. Right now, we are at 397. That's 109 more than a week ago. That's a 37% increase. No, I'm sorry, 34% increase in the past week. Of those 44, roughly 10% are in the ICU, which is not great at all. Now, the only number that gives me any comfort here is the average of new daily deaths reported, which is back down to 2. Now, again, that's not how many deaths are happening each day. That's how many deaths are confirmed each day. Okay, it's sort of grim, but we're talking about paperwork. We're talking about lives lost. We're talking about families mourning, but we're talking about paperwork too. We're talking about this is when these death certificates are confirmed and entered into the state database. So there may be more deaths happening than that, and just the paperwork's not getting processed. Okay, we are now at 12,957 total deaths for the confirmed deaths in the state of Wisconsin, 1,548 probable COVID-19 deaths that haven't been confirmed. There were no new confirmed deaths over the weekend, which is part of what pushes this number down to 2. That number is going to go back up probably. The question is how high. Probably not real high. Chances are it'll, if it peaks, it'll peak around 20 or something, which is a lot. 20 deaths per day is a lot, but it's not nearly what we saw last winter during the beta surge in November, December 2020. So that's the COVID situation. The cases continue to rise. The positive test rate continues to rise. Hospitalizations continue to rise, even as the deaths stay relatively low. That's the long and short of it. Samantha says she believes the numbers are most skewed by all the people who are positive per home test but are not reporting those positive to health officials. I'm not sure about that. That would drive all the numbers artificially low. And right now the numbers are pretty high. You'd have to have a lot of people testing positive and never reporting it to skew the numbers significantly in that direction. And if that's the case, if that is the case, which I'm not saying it's not, but if that is the case, then these numbers then things are much worse than is indicated here in these numbers. And I'm not sure that that's the case. I think the number of negative at-home tests are probably enough to inflate the positive test rates. But if there are a significant number of people testing positive at home and never reporting those results anywhere, then the positive test rate should be much higher than it is. And it's already very, very high. So it is possible. I think my sense is that most people who test positive at home go actually get a test, like go get a proper test, because the at-home tests are not as accurate or reliable as the PCR tests or the rapid antigen tests that are done at a facility. And it's hard to say, I'm going to isolate myself for 10 days or 5 days or whatever it is based on a test I'm not sure of. So if I get a positive test, I'm certainly going to go get it confirmed before I change my whole life for a week or whatever it is. So my sense is that most people who do get the positive test actually do go and get a test. I'm not sure. I'm not sure of that. But I definitely think negative home tests are people who would normally go get tested don't, because they get a negative home test. That's my sense. I think the other is probably not as true, but I don't know for sure. So it is a valid point, Samantha, that you raise. All right, we're going to take a short pause, and then we will be back with more local news for you in just a few seconds. We'll be back. Don't scroll away. We'll be back right after this. All right, and in Wisconsin news today, Beloit is about to get a pretty big injection of economic development, one hopes, because this artist rendering of a casino and hotel and entertainment venue has gotten final federal approval. This is a Ho-Chunk Nation casino and hotel and possibly even a water park and retail space that is planned for just outside the city of Beloit. It's 33 acres that are being seeded, or placed in trust rather, for the Ho-Chunk Nation for this purpose of building this facility. I was a little surprised, actually. This has been talked about. I knew this had been talked about for a while. And when we heard that it got its final approval from the federal government Bureau of Indian Affairs, I went back to get that image to put with the story. And the image is from 2018. That's 4 years ago already. And so this thing has been in the works for 5 or 6 years. and it just now finally got its final approval from the federal government. It had already gotten its approval from the city of Beloit, from the state, from the Rock County, and is now got its final stamp of approval from the federal government and can move forward. It's estimated that it'll be about 3,000 temporary construction jobs and about 1,300 permanent hospitality and entertainment jobs. So that'd be great for Rock County as well as for the Ho-Chunk Nation. Speaking of Ho-Chunk Nation, our good friend Arvina Martin, the first Indigenous woman, or first Indigenous person elected to the Madison Common Council, is resigning that position. Her term will go for one more year until June of 2023. And she is resigning to focus on family and her new job which we reported a month or two ago. She's the new executive director of Emerge Wisconsin. And that's a very big and busy job. So she's stepping down from the city council. District 11 will be vacant then, but it will be a temporary interim alder person will be appointed by the mayor. So you can, if you live in Arvina's district, you can apply to be that, and then there will be it will not be a special election. That'll just be appointed to fill out the rest of her term for the next year, and then be up for election 2023. And finally today, UW Stout up in Menominee last year created an EDI unit, the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Unit, and has now hired a new assistant chancellor to lead that new division. And her name is Dr. Quinn Brooks. She has most recently held a similar role at the University of Arkansas, and will begin her work up in Menominee at UW Stout in July 11th of this year. And we will definitely get to know her more and maybe have her on the show at some point as she moves, relocates into Wisconsin. So that story again is up at Madison365.org, as are all these stories. Follow us there for the latest, as well as on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever you're watching this right now. You can always keep up with us there. Have a wonderful evening. It is beautiful out. Hope you can get out a little bit, and we'll see you tomorrow.
This is 365 Media.